On Patriots Corner podcast today, I'm your show host, Matt. We're speaking with former United States Navy SEAL, Dan Cerrillo. Dan, what's going on, man? How are you?
Not much. How you guys doing?
Doing great. I'm happy to have you on the show. You know, when I got in contact with the initial contact and he mentioned your name, I was very, very excited. And, I did my research and, you got a lot of stuff going on, a lot of cool stuff. So, I want to jump right into the first question. Question that I normally ask. You guys are razor sharp weapons. Like documentaries will say it, books say it, movies, everything. Where was the initial idea to become a Navy SEAL? When did you first have that initial idea, to join the military and then later on become a United States Navy SEAL?
I was playing college football, not very well, and basically going nowhere in life. And I had to date a girl to this that I named Ginger, and she took me to see the movie Navy SEAL. And I saw it, and I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I could do that. And then basically kind of went from there. My best friend, I had talked to him, and I was like, hey, man, what do you do when you graduate, whatever? He's a big-time wrestler, and he's like, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to school. I'm going to go join the military. I'm going to be a SEAL. And it was just like, really? I just saw this movie. He's like, yeah, I saw the movie too. And so the thought kind of lingered for a while, and then basically I went and I was at a party, and ended up getting this big, huge fist fight. And the next morning, woke up and just found myself the recruiter. And he showed me this video called "Be Someone Special." I watched it and I said, "That's what I would like to do." And that's kind of where it set the ball in motion,
Wow. So it all spawned from a movie to then a fist fight at a party. And I'm assuming you had this, tough kind of mentality. Whether or not if somebody was going to approach you. Dating back to that fist fight, somebody's going to approach you, you're not afraid to lay into them.
No, yeah, I was a brawler. I'm always kind of, my wife laughs, but I basically always tell people I'm only good at three things: fighting, fucking, and drinking, So the fighting part's always been there.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. So your friend told you that he was going to go join the military. He was going to be a Navy SEAL. You saw the movie. You kicked some ass at this party. And next thing you know, you're in a recruiter's office. Now, what happened from there? You went right in and you just said, I want to be a Navy SEAL? Or, you say you want to join the Navy?
So, yeah, I said I want to be a Navy SEAL. My problem was that even though I was a barbarian, I was actually smart. So you have to take this test called the ASVAB, and I took the test, and I only missed one question. So by the time I left, so I took the test. About a week later, I get a phone call, and the guy was like, hey, you're not going to be a SEAL. And I was like, why not? He goes, well, I'm going to put you in the military as a nuke. And basically like a submarine guy, right? And I was like, well, I don't want to be a nuke. He's like, well, you can be a nuke for like 4 years, and then you can go be a SEAL. And I was like, yeah, but that's not what I want to do. So basically he was like, well, I'm not going to put you in the military unless you're a nuke. Not knowing at that point that basically for every 8 recruits that a recruiter signs up, if he signs in one nuke, that's his quota for the month. So I went and talked to my buddy JC's dad, and I was like, hey, man, this guy's like basically being a dick and won't put me in the Navy. And JC's dad was a military, he was a commander in the Navy. He walked in his full uniform and basically told the guy what was what. And so that got me further down the road. I went from there, went to boot camp, and went to Torpedo Inmate A School. Graduated from Torpedo Inmate A School and went to Bethesda, Maryland, because my Blitz class, I was having to wait on it for 4 months. So there's so many, each class has a certain number of roster guys. And so I was in Bethesda, Maryland for 4 months, basically just working out about 4 hours a day. And then I went to Buzz, yeah. So pretty much straight there.
Wow. So, what was now that's not what I'm understanding too, because, and not to get into technical with, what job title, holds more, brains, but as a Navy SEAL, you're having to retain languages, tons of information. You definitely need smarts to be a Navy SEAL as well, correct?
Yeah, so, the teams back then were a little different. You basically, if you made the minimum in the ASVAB, you could go to Buzz. If you didn't even make the ASVAB, you get a waiver. Totally different now. Now, if you don't have a college degree, you're pretty much throwing a dart in the wind trying to get the Buzz, unless you have perfect PT scores or a guy like me writes you a little recommendation. So if you don't have some kind of, educational background, you're going to have a really hard time advancing or even being functional in the teams,
Yeah, now, after your friend's father went in and, basically told the recruiter what was up, what happened then? You went in, did you join the regular Navy? You graduated from Great Lakes, or what went on from there?
Yeah, so I was one of the last guys to go to Orlando boot camp. That's how old I am. So I went to boot camp, got to boot camp, and when I went in, there was two options you could do. One was called a dive fair program, where you were basically in a SEAL/EOD/diver boot camp company, or you were called a volunteer. And I was a volunteer, and essentially in the dive fair company, you got 3 chances to pass the test. As a volunteer, you got 1 chance. And so I went to boot camp, and I said, hey, I want to volunteer to be a SEAL. Everybody laughed at me, of course. The first day I went to SEAL PT, which is led by 3 Navy SEALs. There was like 50 guys that went with me. The next day I went back, it was just me. So I took the test and passed, and basically sent myself down the road. Went to A school, and in A school you got to take the test like once a month to make sure you're still in shape. And I was in A school with like 14 guys, and only 4 of us ended up going to buds from there. Yeah.
Wow. Now, what was that initial feeling like? After being the only guy left in that PT, everybody else had weeded out. Were you just kind of saying, like, shit, I am not at all, failing. I'm not going to fail. I'm going to go and I'm going to succeed.
No, I was more the opposite. I was like, God, you guys are a bunch of pussies, Like, you had to wake up at 4 a.m. And that was the part that sucked for me, because I don't wake myself up. I'm like, God damn, I hate waking up early. So I was really bummed out that nobody woke me up, I was like, well, I just want to wake guys up, like, hey, man, you ready to go? They're like, fuck that, I'm not going back. And I was just kind of like, what's the deal? They're like, oh, it's so hard. I'm like, that was nothing. Because, I was a wrestler and I played water polo, and I was like, that wasn't even a hard workout,
Yeah.
So,
So when you made it to Buds, when you got to Buds, is that a thought? That's got to be a thought that just kind of never leaves your head. It leaves your head, I'm sorry. The first step that you take off, where you're standing there and this has all just become very real. What was that like? Because I've seen Buds Class 234 probably close to 50 times. It's one of my favorite documentaries of following, anybody, any specific organization. What was that thought like when you got to Buds?
When I first got there, it was I thought every day would be like Hell Week. So when they said, hey, you guys are done for the day, I was like, are you fucking serious? Like, wow, we're done? So that was my first initial thought. My second initial thought was like, holy crap, I'm not going to make it. Because I looked around me, and there was literally these specimens of God standing around me. I mean, these guys were freaking superhumans. I mean, there was a dude there who ran like a 4-minute mile, for every mile. And the dude was like 200 pounds ripped. And I was like, what planet did you fall from, Brady Ford was in my class. He was a bronze medalist, swimmer. The guy swam like a 6-minute, 500-meter side stroke. And he swam it so fast they thought he cheated, so they made him swim it again. And you're sitting there and you're like, literally, like, basically, what planet did these guys come from? I had never seen men like this before. I was the bottom. I was basically the bottom third of the pack. And almost everything. And I was really in shape. And I was like, wow, these guys are just, there's no way I'm going to make it. So that was my initial thought when I got there.
Wow. So, and is it 22 weeks, Buds?
26.
26. So you got to, was there ever a point where you were just going through week by week and you were just saying, shit, this is just getting more and more intense. What I want to know is, what kept you going? What kept you going? Say we're on week 4. You still got X amount of weeks left of this pain to endure to become, a Navy SEAL on your journey. What was that like? Did the mind just start kind of, fucking playing tricks on you or something? Or, kind of like beating you down, why are you here? Or...
No, I actually, mine was the opposite. The first Monday, so we went through a week of training, go through Friday, and then come back on Monday morning, I had an epiphany. And basically, that Monday morning, I swear, there's probably 30 guys that quit. And this is the beginning of the morning. We haven't even started anything. And all these guys went home, were warm and cuddly with mama, and came back and they were like, basically, this sucks. And I sat there looking at all these superhuman guys who I was like, fuck, I'm never going to make it. All these guys are quitting. And I basically was like, wow, what a bunch of pussies. And I was just like, it's not that, I basically was like, it's not that hard. It's just, we're just working out. We're working out, we're running. And every time they sent us to go hit the surf or something, there was And so, I guess because my mom was such a mean person that having somebody yell at me and call me bad names and treat me like shit was no big surprise. Um, so I was like, oh wow, I really got off on seeing guys quit. I saw guys quit and I was like, wow, what a bunch of pussies. That was just made me fired up. Like, all right, I'm still here and that dude's out of here, you know.
Wow. Well, then I guess, hey, some good, your mom on some of that to have your mind motivated to keep going strong. But wow, that's so amazing. So guys would just be dropping left and right at certain points during buds, or what was that like? Were they just I can't do this anymore, and you were just there, just the feeling of fuck yeah, I'm still here, I'm still going, I'm gonna keep going.
Yeah, it was weird. Like, during the evolutions, the actual like training, I only saw like 5 guys quit. It was when guys were just sitting there, like you show up on Monday morning, Tuesday morning, and you're basically it's called the cages right behind buds, and your class all kind of musters there, whatever, and you'd see the guys go walk up to class officer, and they see their heads shaking a little bit, and you're like, man, that dude's gonna quit, and boom, about an hour later, you hear the bell going bing, 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 and you're just like, holy crap, that dude just quit, and we haven't even done the thing. And that's basically what it was, is, these guys would go home, get warm and cuddly, and they'd have time to think about it. For me, I lived in the barracks, so I didn't ever have an opportunity to think. I guess I was lucky. You can keep the car on. I was lucky in that I was with a guy named Derek Davis, and Derek always told me, if you have a plan B, you're not going to make it. And, basically me, I'm a kid from the ghetto. There was no plan B. I failed out of college. There's no chances of playing in the NFL for me. I'm 5'7", and I basically was just like, there's no plan B. And I just never in my brain ever contemplated that it was hard. The only time I ever had a bad day, I had a buddy named Carlos Saez, and on Tuesday night of 10 week, Carlos quit. It was mid-rap, so we were midnight. I saw Carlos walk up to the instructors, and, part of me wanted to get up and go grab him, and part of me was basically like, fuck him. But that was the only time ever where I was just like, God, because Carlos was my friend. He was like, I'm one of those guys I'm kind of hard to get along with, so I don't have a lot of friends, and I don't want a lot of friends because I think most people are assholes. So Carlos was my friend, and I saw Carlos quit, and I basically just kind of was like, fuck. And this guy named Johnny Rodriguez, Johnny's kind of like a mentor of mine, and he was in my buds class, and Johnny looked at me, and he goes, hey, man, don't think about it. He goes, move on. And it just kind of snapped me back into what I was there for, and, Johnny and I did our whole career together, and, he's a war hero, he's a warrant officer in the military, in Navy now, SEAL, and basically just having Johnny just look at me and go, hey, man, don't think about it, move on. And that's what I did. That was the only time I ever really had a bad fucking few moments in buds,
Well, that's what I admire most about, you guys in the community that you're a part of, the brotherhood that you're a part of, is that you can. Just, by the snap of a finger, you can move on. And that's what I admire about you guys the most. Your mindset and your mentality is just, so tough. It cannot be broken. That's what I think is so awesome.
Yeah, it's funny, when I was in buds, the instructors always tell you, this isn't that bad, wait till you get to the teams. And I would always laugh about it and like, oh, it could never be this bad. It's way worse than the teams. But I'll tell you, the mentality part is something that I truly, I think that's what God, touched me with, was basically being mentally and physically tough, extraordinarily tough. I've dealt with a lot of stuff in my life, and right now, my wife is fighting cancer, and I literally feel like giving up sometimes because of my wife. Like I can't kill it, I can't stab it, I can't shoot it, can't fucking strangle it, and I sit there and I'm like, I can't quit, because my wife, my family needs me, and then you realize that that's what I'm here for. Is I think that was God's message to me was, I gave you all this toughness, and for basically 20 years of marriage, you pretty much overlooked your wife. Now it's time to start looking at the person who's been with you side by side for this entire time. So I'm thankful that I have this mental and physical toughness, but yeah, sometimes it's challenging,
Of course, yeah, I could only imagine. I do have one question left about buds. Now, you had just seen the movie. Little bit of a random question. It just kind of came into my head. You had just seen this movie. When you were at Buds, were you ever kind of thinking in your head, feeling like you were one of the actors in the movie? I don't.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, sorry about that. I get cut off. No, because there's no part of Buds that is ever fun. And that's the one thing. That's the funny part of the SEAL teams. You know my buddy Steve. Steve and I went to Buds together. Everything that's fun that the SEAL teams could do, the SEAL teams have a way of fucking it up. So, hey, we're going to jump out of planes. You're like, yeah, we're going to jump out of planes. Here's 300 pounds of crap strapped to your body. We're going to kick you out in the middle of the night, and you're not going to sleep for like 2 days. So there's no part ever that you're like, oh, my God, this is so fun. After it's over, you're like, oh, that was kind of fun. But you're so freaking tired. In Buds, you run so much. I mean, you run 6 miles a day just to go eat. So the chow hall's a mile away. So you got to run 6 miles a day, a mile there, a mile back. And that's not even anything. You never walk. You're not allowed to walk anywhere. So you run all day long. So everything that's possibly enjoyable, they completely and totally screw it up.
Oh, wow. Well, I mean, Steve said to me in the podcast that we did together a while back, a few months ago, Steve had the same thing. He was in a boat. You guys were doing raft training or something, and he fell, out or something, or it rammed against a rock, and it nailed him in the back, and he just fought through it because he was afraid, I believe, of getting rolled or of medical or something. But
yeah. So when Steve and I were in the same boat crew. When we went through Buds, there was no medical rolls. So if you got hurt, they dropped you. And so the classes before us, if you got hurt, they rolled you back. Well, I guess there was so many rollbacks that they were just like, okay, we're not going to do any med rolls, pre-Hell Week med rolls. And so Steve, basically, we were doing rock portage right there in front of the Coronado Caves. I was the number 1 man. Steve was number 2 man. And so my job was to jump out with the bow line, and I jumped out, and Steve jumped out with me. But the problem was, when the wave went out, it sucked the boat out, and Steve was basically caught between the boat and the rocks, and the wave came back in and slammed the boat into Steve, basically buried him in these rocks. These boulders they're gigantic, And the boat is like 300 pounds. Unless you got 6 guys in there, it just smashed him right in the rocks. And basically, yeah, man, he gutted through it. I had another guy on my boat named Kaplinger who broke his foot. And he's like, he ran on a broken foot for 2 days so that he could be a Wednesday drop in Hell Week instead of a Monday or Tuesday drop. And there's just guys like that, man. They're so freaking tough. They're so mean. They're so nasty. Pain just doesn't affect them. That's me. Pain just doesn't affect me. I don't even know I tore ligaments until I basically can't walk on the thing, and I'm like, oh shit, my knee popped out of joint. You go to the doctor's like, oh yeah, your entire knee is torn apart. You're like, oh, it hurt a little bit.
Wow. Now after graduation, what was next? You were in what SEAL team? If you're able to say, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I went to SEAL Team 1. Almost my entire boat crew went to SEAL Team 1. SEAL Team 1 Alpha Platoon, and got there. Our STT back then was supposed to be 6 months, but because we were already slated for a platoon, our STT was like 3 months. We jumped in there, and we actually started doing a lot of platoon workup, and then our platoon actually got back from deployment and joined us, and all those guys are coming back from Somalia. And, these guys were hard men. Jocko Willink is very famous now. Jocko was my first platoon as an old guy. I was a new guy, and those guys were tough, man. They were not nice to us, to say the least. They basically, we learned by the hand, and basically if you didn't learn it, you got punched in the face. And so you learned it real quick,
Now, your first mission, I know you guys cannot go into depth with what went on, and I won't even ask. What was that like, though? Was that just, all of the training that you had just went through prior, just kind of clicked when it needed to be clicked?
So you're talking about my first wartime mission or my first mission in general?
Whatever one you want to talk about, Dan. Whatever one that, you feel most comfortable about, elaborating on, or, yeah.
So, yeah, I was lucky. I was able to do one mission, my first platoon, which was a big deal back then because, nobody was doing anything because the Clinton era. And so we took down a boat called the Al-Shahad, and took it down off the coast of Iran. We thought it was a big deal until we got on it. But basically, yeah, the apprehension you feel before you go, it's not really fear. I mean, you're scared, but you're scared in a different way. I was scared to fuck up. I was like, man, I really hope I don't screw up, because these guys, these guys who are so experienced. My first platoon LPO, which is basically your head worker bee, had 6 platoons. I mean, he was a rock star named Bill Munn. I mean, the guy was awesome, and I just was like, man, I hope I don't screw up. I hope I wasn't scared to go. I was scared to mess up. In combat, the first time I went into combat, in Iraq, I was scared. I was legitimately scared. I was like, because we knew bullets were going to fly, etc. But it was different that time. Now it was, instead of being scared to screw up, I was like, man, I'm scared because I hope none of my guys get hit, because now I'm the guy, And yeah, there's apprehension, but it's weird. Once you get there, the one thing the SEAL teams do is we train, man. We freaking train, and when you get there, it's just automatic. Like, I remember my first firefight. I remember the firefight started, and when it was over, I looked down at my feet, and there's 4 magazines inside the vehicle. I don't ever remember changing a magazine. And, there was 4 empty magazines right below me. And so during that firefight, I had changed my magazines and went through the reload drills, but you just don't even realize it. That's how much you train. It's just so much muscle memory,
Yeah. Now, what kind of stuff were you doing in SEAL Team 1 before you got out? What kind of stuff were you doing?
So I was called an ARG Alpha platoon. So back in the day, SEAL platoons floated on ships, and so amphibious ready group, which was like if you wanted to see action, you went in the ARG, and it sucked. So we floated, to the Middle East, and basically when I was in during that time, it was called I can't remember the name, but basically we were going up to the border of Iraq, waiting for Saddam Hussein to invade again, second time. And so we'd go up there and just basically sit up there in hide sites and watch Saddam's army drive back and forth, waiting for them to invade. And so that was pretty much what I did my entire SEAL Team 1 career. My last platoon at SEAL Team 1, I went to the Philippines on deployment and helped the Filipino SEALs train to go rescue the hostages that Al-Qaeda, which was just beginning to be born, had captured. And that was the Christian missionaries that they actually killed, the Army guys, not the guys we trained. The Army guys actually did the rescue, killed the husband and rescued the wife, shot the wife. So the guys that we trained were actually there waiting to do the mission, and the Army guys came and took the mission from them. So that was pretty much what we did. We did a lot of training, a lot of shipboarding, so we practiced to take down ships, because that's when Saddam was smuggling his oil out. And, man, we trained, man. We trained.
Wow. Now, after getting out and seeing how everything's conducted right now with government, the new commander-in-chief, we're hearing a lot of bullshit, a lot of backlash, and, a lot towards him. The current government in general. What's your thoughts on everything that's going on as far as, the ban, all of that stuff, that is currently taking place, and everybody who seems to know the answers, and if you catch my drift on, who I'm pointing the finger at, what's your opinion on all of that?
Well, it's funny, I just had breakfast with my sister-in-law, and, I basically have to tell people the truth. And I tell them, I'm not a pro-Trump guy, I'm an anti-Hillary guy. And I'm an anti-Obama guy. And basically, it isn't the fact that they are bad people or anything like that. They were inept. My friends died because of Hillary and Obama. And that's the truth. No matter how way you wanted to cite it or anything like that, I have a lot of friends who died because of them, because of the rules of engagement, because obviously nobody came to rescue them in Benghazi, because of all kinds, daylight missions, all this shit. So now people are always, on the Trump bandwagon, like, oh, he's this, he's that, he's this. I'll tell you, the one thing that guy has decided is if he's going to send men to combat, he's taking the gloves off. And that's what guys like me are about. Like, I'm one of those guys who's like, don't send me if you're going to tell me not to do this or that. I went through a murder trial, for killing a bad guy. And I sit there and I go, hold on, the mission was kill or capture, and he's dead. So how he got dead doesn't really fucking concern me, but he got dead. You see a guy like Trump, and Trump's basically like, hey, listen, I'm sending you to the most dangerous places on earth to do the most dangerous shit imaginable, to see things that are horrific that humans should never see. I'm taking the gloves off. And that for me says a lot. You know, do I agree with his Twitter stuff and stuff like that? I don't do fucking Twitter, so I don't really care. I figure it this way. The only thing that the presidents are ever going to decide for a guy like me is whether or not I'm going to die with a gun in my hand or get a gun not in my hands. And a guy like Trump, he's going to send my friends to war. He's going to send them to war to go fucking kill dudes and kill the bad guys. I'm for it. A guy like Obama is basically like, hey, I'm going to send you to war, but please don't hurt anybody. Well, please don't hurt anybody. And you're just like, what am I doing here, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, ISIS was created because of Barack Obama. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. ISIS was created because of Barack Obama. He left Iraq. He left Iraq as a cesspool of what it was. The war was not over, and ISIS basically took over the Iraqi military, you know, defeated them in hours, which we all knew. Everybody who ever trained in Iraqi was like, these guys are buffoons. You know, that's it. And so you got a guy, you know, you got a new administration. Maybe the guy's a babbling buffoon. He talks too much. I talk too much. But guess what? He's fucking killing bad guys. And that's it, man. Everybody who wants to put a hug and kiss terrorists, well, your head's going to end up on the top of a flagpole. And that's all that's going to happen.
Well, you know
you're
what?
Not gonna appease them.
Well, go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know, you're not going to appease these people. You're not going to satisfy them. They want to kill you. They want to kill you because you're an American. That's it. They want to kill you because you don't pray to the same book they pray to.
Well, finally, you know, I hear that. And you know what? I'm happy that you said that, because that's one of my biggest things that drives me nuts as well. It always seems like everyone else who knows what they're talking about, you know, whether they be liberal or, you know, just whatever kind of planet they came off of, they seem to know everything and say, you know, this and that. And then it all comes down to the fact as you don't know the real truth. And if you think you do, well, then you're pretty much wrong. You know, I mean, the fact that people, you know, think that they could go over and, you know, sit down and have a cup of coffee or eat breakfast, you know, with people like this is just bullshit. It makes absolutely no sense to me, and it leaves my mind boggled. You know, I mean, you touched on President Obama. One thing that I actually asked Robert O'Neill, who I had on the show probably 2 months ago, what were your thoughts when it seemed like Obama was taking a large majority of the credit for the assassination of Osama bin Laden? And, you know, me as a civilian, my father is a civilian, and friends of mine were kind of outraged. You know, I'm a pro-military, conservative kid. I was not a fan of Barack Obama. And, you know, it seemed like he was trying to take all the credit. Now, did that aggravate you? You know, your brothers being one of the you know, members who took that shot in that community when you heard that this, you know, this guy was trying to take all the credit, and then nonetheless, Hillary Clinton trying to use it in her campaign?
You know, it did. And here's the reason why is, you know, I know a lot of the guys who were on that mission. It's funny, a lot of those guys are still Team 1 guys from back in the day. One of my really, really good friends, he's the master chief of that team. And it bothers me because not so much they take credit, how long they sat. And, you know, bin Laden could have gone away. He could have gone away. And, you know, if you know the movie, I don't know, what's the movie, Zero Dark 30, right?
Yes.
If anything shows the cowardice of those people, that's that movie. That girl going, hey, day 94, day 106, whatever, how many freaking days it was, cowardice. Fucking cowardice. And that's what Obama and Hillary, they're cowards. You know? You know, Benghazi is obviously very personal to me because Ty Woods and Glenn Doherty were, you know, they were my friends. They, you know, Ty Woods was one of my grooms in my wedding, you know? And cowards. You know, they're scared to do their job. And their job is to basically keep America safe. You know, and as far as the sheeple in this country, it baffles me. It completely baffles me that after seeing September 11th, after what just happened a couple weeks ago, you know, at the concert in London, after, you know, the knife attack, these people don't get it. And they actually freaking believe that Islam is a peaceful religion. You know, religion of peace. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm happy that 1 million people are peaceful. But guess what? Those 1 million people are allowing the 100,000 bad guys to exist. You know? And everybody wants to, like, hug and kiss and And, people will look down their nose at me, whatever. I don't care. Because I've seen the radicalism. There's two types of Muslims in the world. The one that cuts your head off and the one that holds your feet down while you get your head cut off. That's my opinion of them. I've seen 14-year-old boys slap their mothers over money. I've seen a 16-year-old boy punch a little girl in the face over a chem light. They're fucking savages, man. And, to have an administration of cowards that allow these people to exist, to allow them to propagate and allow them to murder, systematically murder other human beings, just disgusts me, And then you have people who really, fuck, man, kills me.
Yeah, and that is horrible, and that's disturbing to watch, and I'm sure it was aggravating as all hell to see that kind of crap go down, because that's terrible. And when you were there, was there ever a time where you were just kind of like that guy, that kid who's punching his sister or slapping his mother? I'm sure it made you just want to go over to him and just be like, what the hell are you doing? This is just awful what you're doing.
Well, I was a little different. So the kid that slapped his mom, we're on target one night, and we're actually going after a North Carolina professor. This guy's a professor at North Carolina. Goes to Iraq to go kill Americans. He's on his jihad, whatever. We raid his house. In his house, there's nothing but moldy rice, some fucking couple of molded, mildewed pita bread, nothing else, no other food. And we find a briefcase of $10,000. So, obviously we're going to take the money and, turn it over. So I grab some money out of the briefcase and I hand it to the mom. We got all the women and children in one room. Dad's going to Guantanamo. He's never going to see it again. So I hand this money to mom, and the little boy grabs, slaps her in the face and takes the money. And I sat there and looked at this kid, and I just beat the shit out of him. I just fucking grabbed him by the fucking hair and just fucking beat the shit out of him. Because, one, you don't hit women. And two, you don't hit your mom. The second kid, give this little girl a chem light. We're on target in a city called Mumadia. Very, very dangerous city. And, it's getting dark. We're gonna clear out of there. We've been there all day clearing mortars. We found all these mortars, gonna blow them in place. And so I break a chem light, hand to this little girl. Little girl's about my daughter's age. And, fucking 16-year-old boy walks over, punches her, and takes the chem light from her. And I fucking put the boots to that motherfucker. I sat there and basically my platoon just kind of sat and they were like, yeah. That was us. It was like, I put the boots on that kid and I gave him a beating he'll never forget. And that's the thing is like, that's me. I'm a law-abiding citizen, I'm a whatever, but you do something that's fucked up, I'm gonna let you have it. And that's what those people need. They're bullies. They're fucking bullies. The Muslim male, the Arab male understands two things, power and violence. And the person who's the most violent has the most power. And that's essentially what you do the first time you're trying to teach them whatever. You find out who's the guy in charge, you beat the shit out of him. And then everybody listens to you. And, so, yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Now, that kind of stuff that's going on, how is this going to be, destroyed? This stuff, the people that are coming in, and I'm sorry, did you mention that the guy you were going after was a professor?
Yeah.
From North Carolina?
North Carolina, yeah.
What the fuck? He was going from North Carolina University to the Middle East?
Yeah, so we got intel on him. We were up in Mosul, and this was 04, I think. And yeah, we got his profile. They were like, yeah, this guy, believe it or not, he's an American Iraqi, and he's a professor. He was a professor in North Carolina, and teaches Arabic studies. And he's here now. He's a financier for Al Qaeda to fucking blow us up. Yeah, and the thing is, the one thing that I've learned after going overseas, going to war, the number of times that I've been is everything is education. Everything is education. And what happens is smart people prey on the stupidity of dumb people. And smart people get dumb people to fight their wars for them. Now, that's true here as well, right? Because I wasn't always smart. I was a dummy. Obviously, I found a job that helped me get to where I'm at in life now. But overseas, these people have no education. And so us going over there and killing them, fine. But what you're really doing is you're only making more terrorists. Because what we're doing is we're creating a vacuum of power. And we're not filling that vacuum with making more dumb people smart. Schools, education, and jobs are going to stop wars. So you go blow up all the factories, and I kind country, you don't rebuild them, you've done nothing. You know, the biggest mistake we made in Iraq was removing Saddam Hussein from power. Everybody knows that. You know, I fought war there. I understand it. But, you know, he was the most powerful guy. He kept the people in check. Yeah, he murdered a lot of people. He murdered his own people, right? But there were schools there. There was jobs there. There was education. There was things to do that kept people from fucking turning into thousands upon thousands of bad guys, right? And after, you know, the age that I'm at now and where I'm at in life, I look at it and I go, if you just teach kids from an early age how to work, how to maintain a job, and give them hope, they're not going to do bad shit. They're not going to resort to bad things. Will some of them? Yes. But not in the masses that they're doing now. And that's the hidden thing that people don't realize. People think it's one or two terrorists right now doing one or two things. It's masses waiting for the big freaking call. I mean, I can see all-out war in Europe in the next 10 years. You know? It's coming. The radical guys are doing attacks now. It isn't a few of them. It's a lot. And it's scary, man. It's scary. But education will stop wars.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Now, and then that, yeah, education needs to be more than enforced and stuff like that, you know, because I as well, you know, I'm a big, you know, fan of watching the news, and just seeing everything that's going on is just absolutely awful. Now, Dan, what was your next move after getting out of the SEAL teams? What was your next line of work? What did you start doing afterwards?
So I went and did government contracting for a year. You know, working with a group, it was great. Still doing pretty much the same job I was doing in the SEAL teams. I did that for a year, and then I got a phone call to come to Seattle, and I thought it was another government agency calling me because of how cryptic and how secret it was. Turns out I was coming to Seattle to guard little fat kids. Ended up coming here to work as an executive protection guy for Paul Allen, who is the co-founder of Microsoft.
Oh, wow.
I was on his security detail, guarding his niece and nephews. Great kids, you know, did it for 6 years. And at the same time, from the front seat of a car while I was, you know, doing my job, I opened a gym and built it into one of the biggest CrossFit gyms in the world. And did that for the last, you know, 10 years. I just sold it in September. Just basically security and being a barbarian, you know, I could still shoot guns, I could still lift a lot of weights.
Two great combos. Good for you, Dan. Wow. Now, you know, what's going on now? You're obviously still working with your gym. You know, what do you have going on right now? Anything new?
So yeah, so my wife got sick, and so when she got sick, I decided I really needed to focus on her. So I sold my businesses, so I sold my businesses. A good friend of mine named Greg gave me a job doing military sales. So I did that for a few months. Found out that I'm not a good salesman. I'm not good sitting behind a desk. So I got a phone call to go work for another high net worth individual, and I'm on his security detail now. I guard him all over the world, all over where he goes. It's a great job for me because I basically can kind of pick and choose my schedule. And I also coach high school football here at a Christian school right by my house, here at Cedar Park Christian. And I get to coach one of my best friends named Butch Gostroff, who's the Associated Press Coach of the Decade. We coached at Bellevue High School for a long time, so we're now coaching at Cedar Park Christian. And so those are my jobs. I travel to go to work, and when I'm home, I coach football and run the weight room and remodel my house. I just got a new house, gigantic house. It's so big I don't even have enough furniture for the darn thing. And spend a lot of time with my wife. You know, that's it, man. I'm a full-time husband now. Basically, you know, for 20 years, I was a part-time husband. I was a full-time warrior, part-time husband. And now I'm a full-time husband, part-time warrior. I've really, you know, really had to come to terms with my wife's illness and really have gotten, you know, I've really found my way back to God again. I lost God for a long time in my life. Obviously, when you're in this profession, it's very hard to be a religious person. For me, it was. And so I found my way back to God, and I have really embraced, you know, his message to me, which is essentially, you know, I'm not a Bible thumper or anything like that. I won't quote scripture. His message to me was stop being an asshole and start focusing on your wife. So I listened, and it's been good, man. That's what I do now. I coach my son. I coach my daughter. Just enjoying life, man. Enjoying a very quiet, very humble, very private life.
So you don't miss sales?
I don't miss sales. I fucking hate people, So calling people on the phone to try to sell shit, God, I was terrible at it,
I can only envision it, man. I can only envision it. You're going to come and sign this contract, and we're going to get this going, or you're going to see my fist between your eyes in a split second.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, motherfucker, you're going to buy this shit. I just spent 10 minutes on the phone with you.
That's too funny, man. Well, hey, I'm so happy that everything's going well with you. And, I couldn't thank you enough for, your words that you shared on the podcast show today, your story, and your words of truth. Most importantly, that's what I value the most. And you gave that to me and gave that to the rest of the listeners is truth, and that's the truth. So, Dan, I am, wanting to say thank you for being on the show today. God bless you. God bless your family. And, keep rocking, man. You are the king. You're the man.
All right, yeah, and thank you so much. That makes me feel good. Can I give one little shout-out?
Sure thing.
So, I have another company I just started. It's called Spartan 7, and basically we do a lot of football mentorship, and then we do, SEAL adventure stuff. So, if I get a little a 2-second promo on that, that'd be cool. But, yeah, man, I'm enjoying life, man. For the first time in a long time, I'm a happy man.
Well, good for you. Now, Spartan 7, and now what is that again you mentioned?
So Spartan 7 used to be called Turning Steel, which was my other company, and I sold it. I worked for Steel Fit for a long time. We did, we do basically crucible-type training, come in and, basically Hell Week type training. I do that now for football teams at Spartan 7. We just did one at Southern Alabama University. We come in and bring my staff in and basically give a 12-hour evolution of team bonding through pain. Basically designed to bring the team together and designed to allow the coaches to see who their leaders are and to see, you tell us which guys you want to step up and we'll make sure they step up type thing. Seeing what your team's going to look like under stress, etc. And it's basically a great evaluation for coaches to kind of sit back and watch other coaches train their guys. And it's all team building, communication. Obviously, it's all workouts, SEAL evolution, Bud style evolution stuff. On the flip side of that, for the coaches, we do an adventure. And what we do is we do the same thing, only they're not going to do the physical stuff. We're going to dress them up like SEALs, give them guns, and basically for 3 days, one day we'll shoot, and for 2 days they're going to learn to, to clear houses and home protection and all that stuff, basically as a team. They learn to communicate with each other. They're going to learn to operate like SEALs. So for the kids, you do the BUD thing. For the adults, you do the SEAL thing. And, we do that for the team, for football teams and coaches, and then we do it for very, very, people, high net worth people who want to come out for a week. We take them through an adventure in New Mexico on this private ranch that we lease. And, for a week, man, they play SEAL. We have vehicles, helicopters, we have everything you can think of,
Wow, that is – I don't know what guy would not want to do that. I guess, I have no idea what guy would not want to do that.
Yeah, it's great. The thing is, too, it's we don't pull any punches, the meals are through the roof. The ranch is actually John Tunstall's old ranch, which was Billy the Kid's guardian. So it's the old Tunstall Ranch. Jens is the ranch owner, and we go down there. He's got desert vehicles and motorcycles and shooting. I mean, we shoot guns like you couldn't believe. Drink whiskey, smoke cigars. It's a hoot, man. It's a hoot,
Well, you know what? I feel like if John Wayne was still alive, I feel like he might. The only thing that would make it even, more of a badass is just him being there, just supervising in a rocking chair or something like that.
We have some John Wayne show up, that's for sure. We have some, we have some pretty famous frogmen come in. They'll give their speeches and they'll show up for a day or two and hang out and drink whiskey with the clients, and it's awesome, man. It's awesome.
Well, then you just taught me. That's cooler. That's cooler than John Wayne. But you know what, Dan? Again, thank you so much. God bless you, man. God bless your family. Everything you got going on. You're the man, and I could not thank you more for being on the show today. I really do appreciate it, sir.
Well, thank you so much. You have a great day.
All right, take care, Dan.
Goodbye.
Bye.